Alrighty, we're live here. Give me a full memento so I can get set up with the Instagram. But this is really where you want to be to get that creation. Um, Hello. If you're watching this replay, you can fast forward like a minute or two while I get this together. Appreciate you being here. Welcome to the Creating QnA. And we're going to go live. Grace today. That's what we're talking about in these streets. Mm, mm, mm. Okay. Let's see what I want to do with this chair. Hello, Instagram. Okay. I think we got it. All right. Everybody ready? This is the thumbs up for the YouTube, so you know we're ready. I'll put my gloves on because as you can see here, we're going to be painting today. Gonna try to angle this properly. Ooh. Well, it is what it is. Oh. Okay, we're professional. Maybe this would be better. Yeah? Okay. Cool beans. And maybe we can give this a shift this way. And give this a shift this way. Okay. Second thumbs up. Welcome in today. I wanted to have this conversation about grace today. And if you are wondering, who am I? What is this? What's going on? My name is Anjulique, also known as Anjulique the artist. And I am a expressionist artist, a spiritual life coach, and a youth mental wellness advocate. And today, we're going to be creating while we Q&A anything that's going on in your mind or in your life about grace. This topic came up for me because recently the theme of resistance and release have been coming up, and along with those two things, I believe, I know that grace is essential. And also I'm planning to do an accountability challenge. There we go. Planning to do an accountability challenge. And I'm going to be inviting people to take on that challenge with me. And I was like, okay, so what are the standards going to be for this challenge? Because recently I was listening to the motivational teacher to the masses, Mr. Anthony Williams, and he was talking about standards and how your standards have to be high if you plan to live your higher life. And if you keep your standards average in any area of your life, it'll balance out into an average that is not the highest. So you have to raise your standards in all areas of your life to reach that. And so I was reflecting on that, and I was like, yeah, there are some ways that I could raise my standards when it's coming to acting as a business person and like being in action. So I had this idea. It came forward for me, and I was like, okay, so what are the standards going to be for this? Ooh, what are the standards going to be for this accountability activity? And I started to think, what if somebody's like, oh, well, I didn't really get to it this week, and how we can be like, oh, I didn't get to it, I suck, ha ha ha, me, I suck. And how that's really um, kind of just a way to let yourself off the hook by saying like, oh, I suck, boo me, and just letting that be that and not raising your standard to be better. And I was reflecting on that because I do want this challenge to be beneficial in a lot of different ways and for the any individuals involved. But at the same time, I want to acknowledge um, that things do take time, and a lot of times they take more mindset time than they do anything else. And so I was like, that requires grace, having grace with yourself, having grace with others, but mostly with yourself. So that's kind of what we're talking about today, having grace. What we're creating today are the August art cards. I have been such a busy beaver. And again, here we go with the grace versus the what's the word? Enabling. Grace versus the enabling. Um, I've been a busy beaver doing a lot of things, getting clarity in a lot of spaces. And so I haven't really had the time or the creative energy to really work on these. But I said, you know what? We're doing the Create and QnA. This would be a great time to do this and to also talk about what they're for. Because if you do not know, I have a workshop centered towards teens called Time for Teens. We go over self talk and setting boundaries. I believe those are two critical foundational skills that every human being should have, and especially in the teen years, because when you don't have a strong connection with yourself, when you're not good at setting healthy boundaries, you're not sure how to make confident direction decisions, you aren't sure which direction to go, you're not good at building communication and relationships that are nurturing and positive and supportive, you can find yourself in some really toxic spaces. And I think it's going to save a lot of teens from themselves, from depression, from self harm, and also from being manipulated by the world, society, individuals. So um, that's kind of what that program, that workshop is about. And these art cards are a way to help fund the facilitation of that. So there are like refreshments that are involved. So if you book me in person, there will be refreshments provided. And, people that buy art cards are helping to fund the refreshments. They're helping to fund me traveling. They're helping to fund the booking for different facilities or whatever, and allowing the people to have um, a discount on the services. So 50% of the sales from these art cards and other select artworks on my website do go towards the facilitation, towards making this more affordable for people, because it is set at a price that I believe really honors my value, and also um, kind of stretching. It's stretching certain individuals. It's stretching communities. It's stretching them to invest in themselves in a real tangible way. And if we have community support, we can honor them where they are, and still get them that service while still honoring the service itself. So that's enough talking. Let's start painting. Um, Especially since I need to do this base coat first. So this month of August, I really felt like orange was the vibe. I don't know, something about it was like summer, but also kind of fall and bright and vibrant and friendly. You know, I just was like, what's orange? Let's do some orange. Hey, Raymel, I see you. And while we're painting here, go ahead and talk about this conversation of grace. So, as I mentioned, um, I wanted to explore this difference between grace and enabling. Um, Such like with this art cards, right? I explained I've been a busy beaver, haven't had the time to do it. And I've given myself grace with that. At the same time, I could just be like, oh, I didn't get to it. I was just so busy. We just won't have art cards. And now I'm enabling myself to not be in action. So I feel like that's kind of the line, but I am still getting it done. I am still holding space for myself and acknowledging that I am taking some very large steps in other areas. Um, and also acknowledging that the demand for these hasn't been that high. So it's nothing like super pressing on me. Um, but it is something I want to hold myself accountable to. So I'm getting it done today during the Creating Q&A. And as I mentioned before, I am planning to, ooh, this is coming out real nice. Make sure y'all go over to the YouTube and check this out. Because I like it a lot. I am planning to invite some individuals on uh, a challenge with me. I don't want to really give all the details right now, but I had to set the standards for this challenge because I don't want people to just be like, oh, I didn't really get the thing done this week. So, you know, boo, I suck. Everybody laugh at me because I'm Booze of the Clown. Um, and it's like, no, I want to make sure that the people who are participating in this, who say that they want to be on board, are at a certain standard because, as I mentioned earlier, Raymel, you weren't on, so I'll reiterate. Brother Anthony Williams, he spoke about having your high standards across the board in every area. So, like, how you do one thing is how you do everything, essentially. And if you are a 2 at work, um, but you're like an 8 in your marriage or with your family, eventually that's gonna start going down because you're like, oh, I can slack off while I'm at work. So you're gonna start thinking you can slack off at home or vice versa. For me, I constantly remind myself of that while I'm doing my yoga. Yes, I still do my yoga Instagram fam on Sundays and Wednesdays. Sundays I do a full session, Wednesdays I do a half session. Um, and I've been honoring the different parts of my body that want to be stretched and pulled. Um, so I've been not doing the same exact sequence every week, but I still keep that same time consistency. Um, and I do give myself grace within that, where I may do it a little earlier in the morning or a little later in the morning so that I have time to braid my hair or check on something that I'm researching or respond to an email or whatever, or go for my morning walk. I allow myself grace within that, but I still get it done. And I think that's something that a lot of people can get confused with, especially in this day and age. Um, Brother Emil, you actually reminded me how different um, ideas or concepts can be trendy. Raymel made a video about honoring your inner child and doing that inner child work because a lot of people are running around here um, as, you know, as grown up people, but acting out as children. And when you do your inner child work, you're able to respond instead of react. And he said at the beginning of the video that this is something that's been trendy. And when I first heard that, I was like, you know, it has been trendy. And my old mindset was very anti. So So I was like, anything that's like trendy or like too popular, like I don't want to be involved. But I'm stepping away from that and understanding that everything has a rhythm, has a flow, and that sometimes you can catch onto that wave and it can be beneficial. So when you brought up that the inner child, the theme of the inner child has become trendy, I had to remind myself that yes, it is. But if you really do that work, it's so powerful and so transformative. Um, and the idea of uh, giving yourself grace is also something that's been like trendy, like, like boundaries and, self care. Like, all of these things are getting more into the popular culture. And oftentimes, when things get um, molded into popular culture, they get diluted from what their actual intention is. So, um, when it comes to grace, some people, like I mentioned earlier, will say like, "Oh, I'm just giving myself grace. I didn't really get to this thing, so I'm just giving myself grace." And like I said, totally believe in that. But you have to ask yourself at the same time. I'm letting these dry while we conversate. So excuse me. You're like, what are you doing? Nothing. Letting it dry, being patient. But excuse me. Um, you can say like, oh, I'm giving myself grace. I'm giving myself grace. But you have to really check in with yourself on what are your goals? What is your intention? What is your why? What's really pulling you to do this thing, desiring to do this thing? Do you actually really want to do it? Otherwise, don't keep telling yourself you're going to do it and then giving yourself grace for not doing it. Give yourself the grace of acknowledging, hey, I don't really want to actually do this thing. It's not that important to me. I feel like personally, as an individual and as a coach, that form of grace is a lot more progressive and a lot more in alignment with what grace actually is. Because when you allow yourself to see you and see your desires and really be honest, that takes grace, that takes intention, that takes vulnerability. You feel me? Because you're acknowledging, ooh, I said I was going to do something. This is my third time having not done it or pushing it back or rescheduling or whatever. What is that telling me about myself? What is that telling me about myself that I haven't done this thing for the third time, that I keep pushing it back? For me, that tells me that this isn't really that aligned with me. And then I've learned to see myself from that space where I'm at, trying to do something I'm not aligned with, and giving myself the grace to let it go, giving myself the grace to release it, giving myself the grace to acknowledge that I lied to myself. I lied to myself. Maybe I was trying to perform for people. Maybe I was trying to please. Maybe I was trying to do something that I simply just wasn't ready for. Whatever the case may be, I have to acknowledge where I really am and give myself the grace to be who I really am. And I feel like that's so much more powerful than saying, "Ooh, I'm giving myself grace. I'm just pushing this back. I'm just not doing it right now," or whatever, because you're not actually moving forward. You're keeping yourself stagnant. Brother Ramel is typing some paragraphs over here, so let me take off this blur. He says, there is a difference between using that as an excuse to why you are not playing full out. Then there's actually playing full out and giving yourself grace for what you don't know and being open. Absolutely. To fall and not feel ashamed or guilt or worried about judgment and saying you did your best and moved from where you are with love and compassion for self. Yes, yes. Move from where you are with love and compassion for self versus giving an excuse to why you are not playing full out. I really think that hits the nail on the head. I'm glad it's kind of warm in here. I feel like that helped. But I feel like those are the keys of the spectrum there. Um, you have to ask yourself, am I playing full out? Am I really giving this my full attention, my actual focus, um, my direct energy, or not? And if I am, and I'm really doing my best, then I need to release the judgment. I need to release the guilt. I need to release the shame and allow myself to say, I am doing my best. I am doing my best. This is where I am. And I'm holding myself with love and compassion. Grace comes with love and compassion in tune with, in conjunction with, that's the word, action, in conjunction with the action. Because if you're not in action, you're not playing full out. I'm gonna just let that sink in for a second. If you're not in action, are you even playing, period? Let that sink in for a second. If you are not in action, are you even playing at all? Never mind the full out. If you're not in action, what are you giving yourself compassion for? Why are you taking the time to hold yourself? What are you doing? And that's what I mentioned earlier, how you can also, I'm gonna find a different brush here. You can also give yourself grace and love and compassion by acknowledging I'm not in action and unpacking the root of that. Whew, that's, whew, Lord knows. Lord knows I was definitely in that space. And if I'm not diligent with keeping myself in an environment where people are taking action, if I'm not diligent about self assessment and self awareness and assessing my goals versus where I'm presently am, I would definitely be that one to not be in action. Look, put both hands up. Because that was me. That was me. There was certainly, certainly a time where I was in pseudo action. I was in pseudo action. I was telling myself, okay, let me break this down, be more specific with you. Back in the day, 2017 ish, 2016, 2017, I had the idea of wanting to start my own business because I wanted to get some more money because I was like, I keep running out of money and I don't like it. So this entrepreneurialness has been in me for a little while. Actually, we're not going to go there, but in any case, I was having this entrepreneurial ideas, right? But I wasn't really taking the action steps. I just kept telling myself, oh, this is too hard, or this is complex, or I feel like there's another way I can do it, but never really taking the time to do it in that other way, or deliberately doing things against the ways that I was counseled on or researched, because I felt like, oh, there has to be another way. When really that was just an excuse for me to stay in action, or stay in inaction. I mean, that was really just an excuse I was giving myself to not move forward, to stay stuck, to stay comfortable. And I wasn't even that comfortable, y'all. A lot of y'all know my story. 2016 was a dark year for me. You feel me? So I wasn't even that comfortable, but I was constantly telling myself, oh, this is too much, this is too big, this is too complex. And you want to know why? Because I was around people who kept saying that. Because I wasn't in community with people who were gladiators and warriors and unicorns. Point blank, period. So I was like trying to get advice from all of these people, trying to get advice from all these people, and not to put all of it on them. I now can acknowledge fully to myself that I was just simply afraid. I just simply didn't know what I was doing with my life. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I didn't have any sort of idea of what my purpose was. And I was afraid that if I moved forward with anything, that it would collapse. And I would feel even more terrible about myself. Okay? I'm sure that there has been a time when you have not stepped into something because you don't want to feel bad about yourself, because you don't want to get down on yourself, because you're already in a tired ass place. And you're like, if I do this and it doesn't work, I don't know what I'm going to do. Because we have a tendency as human beings to, again, only push ourselves so far, because we think that in our mind, this will be the end of all the things. This will be the end of days. I'll not be able to get back up from this, that nothing could ever happen again. I could not rise from this ever again. We have that tendency. But let me tell you, I've been around some incredible human beings who have been through some I will just say extremely challenging adversities. And the reason I say it like that is not because I don't think they were horrendous or, extremely foul or, not tragic things, but the way that they're able to shape and mold those experiences, that pain, into power and into purpose. I can't call it anything but a challenge because that's the way they see it. That's the way that they share it. And I know that when we face these challenges and when we go through these things, that we have that power to get up, that we have that power to shift, to change, to grow, to evolve, to elevate. But it's the mindset. So, yes, there was a time. There was certainly a time when I did not hold myself accountable, where I definitely thought, oh, I can't do this because XYZ, or the government this, or Bill Gates that, Steve Jobs who, whatever. But once I learned the power of accountability in conjunction with grace, I was able to start taking those steps so much easier. I could actually see the steps. It actually made sense to me. You feel me? I just had an accountability call with my um, business accountability partner. Shout out Jay. Jay got sold, Black Money Matters. Um, and she was asking me about these different parts of like handling the business things like statements of information and EIN and all of that stuff about establishing business. And I was like, yeah, there's like, I've done most of it, but I haven't done some of it. And I remember back to when I was first having these entrepreneurial ideas. And I was going through all these different checklists of what you need to do in order to have a legitimate business in the state of California. And as I mentioned, I was like, oh, this is too much. They're trying to do taxes, blah, blah, blah. And now it's just such an easier. I tell you, the process just seems so easy now. It seems so easy and intuitive. It's because I shifted my mindset. It's because I shifted my mindset. It's because I've been around people who are like, oh, that's the light work part. That's the light work. The real meat and potatoes is the doing the service and being consistent with it. What you, all this other like paperwork, business stuff, it ain't even that deep. But it was a major roadblock for me. And when I tell y'all major roadblock, I mean gigantic, ginormous. Let's see what Brother Ramel said here. Ramel said, that is how shame, guilt, and judgment is released through unpacking and digging up the root. That is what stops. Excuse me. That is what stops action, lack of awareness. Lack of awareness. Again, like I said, I really felt like it was just too much. But then I became aware of how simple it actually is. And I started to be in greater action. Absolutely. Whew. Do you have anything you want to ask, Brother Raymel? Because I just feel like, wow, I need to just reflect on this myself. I feel like I need to take a long pregnant pause. Because it's just so real. It's just so real. And I didn't even realize the conversation was going to be getting this deep today. You feel me? Um, like, of course, you know, I come on here with the intention of sharing and being open and letting whatever comes through come through. But when I first had this idea, I really was just thinking about the live that Brother Anthony did, and the idea that I had for this. Get my foot up here, and the idea that I had for the accountability activity challenge thing that I've been matriculating in my brain. But this just got like real. You feel me? Just like real. Raybell just says, you know me. I do. And I appreciate you so much. Um, hmm. Let's see. Do I want to do something stripey? I'm feeling stripey. I think I'm going to do some little stripey biz over here. We're going to try something new today. We're going to expand ourselves. But yeah. And I guess I'll just say with this, because it just came up with me right now while I'm working on these. The more you give yourself grace in an authentic way, in a deliberate way, the more you allow yourself to expand and reach out and try new things. I think, I don't know where I heard Lisa Nichols talking about this, but she was saying how once you trust your bounce back muscle, once you trust your ability to get back up from wherever you have fallen. Ooh, yes, I like this. Sorry, I just had to acknowledge for a moment. You allow yourself to run faster and further because you know, like, Oh, even if I go out 20 steps and get bounced back 19, I can still run that 20, which means I might be able to run 40, you know? So, you feel me? There's always an opportunity to gain a better relationship with yourself, so that you can explore more of the world. Because something that I've been realizing recently is I really wanted to travel a lot as a child. Um, I had planned to be a veterinarian or like some type of wildlife researcher. So I was like, "Ooh, I'm gonna be in Antarctica with the penguins. I'm gonna be with the pumas in the jungle with the tigers." You feel me? It's like I'm be sitting outside with the orangutans, like Jane Goodall. Um, but my life unfolded how it did, and I'm realizing now, like, there's just so much in the world to explore. And when you give yourself the grace and the space to acknowledge that you want more and that you have the capacity for more, again, when you trust yourself to be more and do more, the world opens up. The world opens up so much, and you realize how much of the world there is, and even with all of my ideas about the places that I wanted to go and the things that I wanted to do, I realized there's still even more. There's still so much more in the world that I hadn't even thought of back in that time. And it's just beautiful, um, how I've grown and expanded my ideas of life, um, from that time. I'm really liking these. These are really coming together. I just gotta say. So you're gonna be seeing them on Instagram because I'm gonna post about them. But sheesh, if you're looking for some inspo, look, I'll show one so you can kind of get the vibe. Ooh, okay, 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 okay. That's all you get. That's all you get. That's all you get. Try to keep the art on the YouTube for now. But yeah, this has been a powerful conversation. Um, just even like what I love about doing things like this is that I'm learning more about myself in the process. You feel me? Um, I'm definitely learning more about myself in this process of just coming on and seeing what comes up. I just realized I didn't tag anybody on this, and that's probably why it's just Raymel. But that's okay. I'm giving myself grace with that because I'm about to be wrapping up soon. So we know for next time. Raymel said, "You are the world when you are." Oh, let me start that over again because that's the. You are the world. When you are, it opens. When you are, it opens. Mm. If you are closed, then it appears closed. It is whatever you want it to be. Absolutely. Absolutely. And just to kind of touch on my early 20s again, I really felt like the world had closed to me. There was a part of me, let me kind of backtrack on that. Oh, I forgot I already had paint on this hand. Did I get on my face? Okay. Um, because there was a part of me that felt like people were very open with me, um, and opportunities opened up to me, but it wasn't in a way that was like abundant. You feel me? I thought it was based on the condition of I was outwardly being a kind person, I realized something recently. I realized something recently because I don't think I was a very nice person, um, compared to who I am now. because of, internal dialogue about the world and everything. Um, I wasn't a very nice person, but I did have common human decency. And I realize now that a lot of people saw me as kind or extremely sweet or considerate. Like if you ask people that I grew up with, they were like, "Yeah, she's really nice. She's really kind. She's very patient and sweet." But I wasn't being that, like, internally. I was doing it because I felt like, well, because when you're young, you say when you're nice, people are nice back to you, or like when you're nice, you get things. It was kind of like an exchange. And the internal part of that exchange was very judgmental and very closed. Um, and I was realizing recently that um, that was just something I used as a way to get things. So when I say that I felt like the world was open to me, I thought it was only open to me on the condition of me people pleasing, essentially. And in all honesty, things did open up to me, but only to a limited capacity. So I felt like, I mean, I can observe now, in fact, because I've studied more about the universal laws and energy. Um, I was only open to so much in the world because I had this idea that what came to me was as a result of my people pleasing, was the result of me, um, working harder, was the result of me um, showing up early, like overextending myself. Just call it what it is. People pleasing, working harder, and overextending myself. And I thought that that's how the world opened up to everyone. But at the same time, I had this very deep understanding that there are some very not so nice people out in the world who are earning um, lots of money, dollars, or have access to the wider world that I have no idea, clue of at that time. Um, so I was like, that can't, that's not really what's going on. And I actually had an incident. Ooh, I'm glad you brought this up, Raymel, because I was actually going to talk about this in a piece of content. Still am, but I give myself a little um, opportunity to process even more. I had this experience where I went to the bank to get some assistance, and I won't tell the whole story. But at the end of the interaction, the lady at the bank said, essentially, I'm paraphrasing, if you had been a more irate person, or if you had, um, oh, I can't think of the word, but if you had like told me that you were struggling and all these things and you weren't trying to be nice and learn how to be a responsible adult, I could have helped you, but instead you were trying to be an upstanding citizen. So I can't help you. I was just like, what? Everything I thought about the world is a lie. And I was reflecting on that recently because we're doing the worthy of wealth. And I was realizing that um, living in poverty led me into the downward spiral that um, almost took my life. Because from that day, I was like, okay, I'm dropping all of this people pleasing BS. I really let my ego run the party at that point. And it was just a dark time. I was intentionally not a nice person. I was intentionally instigating. I was intentionally dismissing everybody's feelings and opinions. intentionally, because my ego was just like, is this what is this what I want right now? Is this what I want right now? No. Is this what I want right now? Yes. And it was just a really dark space. And I'm realizing again, it doesn't have to be one extreme or the other. It really doesn't have to be one extreme or the other. Because when you open yourself up energetically and when you start having that um, kindness with yourself, when you start setting those healthy boundaries, when you learn how the universe works as far as like the law of compensation and the law of vibration and attraction and all these things, um, it allows you to expand out into the universe by deepening the relationship with yourself. Um, but yeah, that's something I'm going to talk about in a piece of content. But I'm glad that that came up. Um, because if you are closed, the world will feel closed. And if you are open only to a certain capacity, the world will only be open to a certain capacity. But when you allow yourself to be unlimited, unleashed, unbound, really truly open in all ways, then the world is open, the universe is open. Um, and with that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this Instagram. I'm going to continue on the YouTube for a little while longer, selecting the colors. Yep, battery is dying. Heard. Um, so yeah, I appreciate you showing up today, Brother Ramel. You definitely helped to expand the conversation. Um, okay. Uh, expand the conversation in a way that I wasn't really anticipating, but I love being open. And that's why I love having people in my circle, in my community, who are about expansion and about growth. Hey, Priscilla, I'm just wrapping up. Um, check out the replay, really powerful conversation. Um, but yeah, I appreciate everybody that I have met over these recent years who have um, assisted me on that journey of opening up and who have shown me the real power of genuine grace. And not just enabling myself to keep staying um, inactive. So, with that, I will say have a beautiful, wonderful, spectacular, magical day because you deserve it, because you are worthy, because yes, you can create it. I'll see y'all next week. Bye. All right, YouTube. So, what we got here? I like these. I like these a lot. I like these a lot, a lot. This was a very juicy conversation today. Um, let's see. What colors do we want to use? I think we're gonna go for these two. So I do the number 44 on these as a homage to the 44% of young people who were reported by the CDC to have been experiencing extended periods of sadness and hopelessness due to the lack of connectivity um, in the pandemic conditions in a whole. Um, so I do that because, again, when you're feeling that type of sadness and that type of hopelessness, it's because you're not opening up to the world. It's because you're not giving yourself grace. You feel me? So um, I really feel like the time for teens is going to be powerful. And I want anybody who purchases these to be reminded that you're contributing to the support of these 44% of young people who are going through these challenges and helping them to have the life skills to navigate that. So thank you. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so we're gonna do the white undertone. You see that there? With the deep gray liner on top. I'm so glad that I took the time to do these. And I am grateful that I gave myself the grace to um, focus on other parts of my business this month, because I've reached some really new elevated points of clarity in my business and with my work. And I don't think I would be in the same space if I hadn't really given my focus to that. So, yay me, celebrating me. And it is technically still August. So, yeah. Oops. We're still within that grace period. You feel me? And I leave room at the bottom because I write out, thank you for existing. And that's a message that I've been sharing since like 2018 or 2019. Because as I mentioned, 2016 was my uh, redemption year. I'll say it that way. 2016 was my redemption year. Um, so prior, or after that, I had to just be grateful for my own existence, and I realized how important it was that people know, like, it's okay to just exist some days. Um, Especially depending on your energy level or what is coming up for you. You feel me? I know there's a really big like hustle culture that's been around for some years. Um, I mean, honestly, since the beginning of America, if we're being honest. Um, and I know I just discussed the difference between um, giving yourself grace and enabling. Um, there's definitely those points where you're like, yeah, I just need to give myself compassion and love today and gratitude for simply existing. And that's enough for today. So I want to also share that message. And also, um, again, I want the people who purchase these to understand that I'm grateful for them because they're helping to contribute to the facilitation of these workshops. So things would look a lot different if they did not exist and they did not contribute. So I always want them to know when they're looking at these, so say thank you. I thank you for existing. I appreciate you. Oh, Lord have mercy. Okay, we're gonna give ourselves grace with this. Um, it kind of goes with it already, so you can't even really tell art. Let's try another one. So yeah, this is where we're at. And we're gonna let these dry, which I'm not going to make you suffer through watching paint dry. So I'm gonna go ahead and sign off. And again, you're also deserving and worthy and able to create the life that you desire. And if you're looking for support with that, definitely reach out at anjuliqueart@gmail.com. If you're interested in any art to purchase to support or otherwise, you can check out Anjulique.com. Same spelling here as on the channel, but with an actual dot instead of the word dot. Wow. But yeah, I appreciate you taking the time today. And if you are playing this on fast forward, stop. We're done. We're done. We're wrapping up. We're wrapping up. But yeah, make sure you like, subscribe, share, leave a comment, all the things. Engage, engage, engage. Because that's how the channel grows. So have a beautiful day, evening, afternoon, morning, wherever you are in the world. And I'll see you next week. Bye.